You do not need a better plan for your life. You need one promise you can keep when nobody is watching. I am 74 and I have worked cattle and fences on this hill my whole life. I have seen men with fine plans fold before breakfast, and men with no plan at all build a good life by doing the next plain thing they said they would do. If you keep breaking your word to yourself, the problem is not that you are lazy. The problem is that you no longer believe the man making the promise. Maybe you know that feeling. Sunday night, you decide everything will change. You will rise early, eat better, stop losing your temper, make the call, finish the work. By Wednesday, you are bargaining with yourself. By Friday, you do not even want to look at the list. If that is you, write one word in the comments. Start. Not the whole plan, just the word. I want to show you how small a real beginning can be. A young fellow named Silas worked for me one spring, a good many years ago. He was 29, strong enough to throw a feed sack over either shoulder, and tired in a way strength does not fix. He had a dented blue truck, 3 unpaid bills folded above the sun visor, and a notebook full of plans for the man he intended to become. Every few days he had a new one. He was going to quit sugar, run 5 miles, read a book every week, save half his pay, and learn welding before summer. He said it all with such force that you almost believe Thursday had never beaten him before. On Monday, he arrived before daylight. On Tuesday, he came 10 minutes late. Wednesday, the truck coughed up the drive after we had already fed the first pasture. By Friday, he sat on an overturned bucket with his head in his hands. "I got no discipline, Wade," he said. I asked him what he had promised himself that morning. He gave me the whole list again. I said, "No wonder you are tired. You hired yourself 10 bosses before breakfast." That got half a laugh out of him. My dog opened one eye, decided neither of us had anything worth hearing, and went back to sleep under the porch. Dogs have a fine sense for speeches. There was a stretch of fence on the north pasture that had leaned since winter. Not fallen, just leaned enough to trouble me every time I passed it. 37 posts, most still sound, 4 split near the ground. I told Silas to meet me at the first post at 6 the next morning. Not 5:30, not whenever the new man he imagined would rise. 6. "What are we doing?" he asked. "One post." He looked down that long, crooked line and asked when we would finish the fence. I told him we were not finishing a fence. We were setting one post. The next morning he came at 6. We pulled the first rotten cedar post, cleaned the hole, set a new one, tamped the earth, and stopped. The work took 40 minutes. Silas wanted to do another. I said no. One was the promise. The second morning came cold and wet. He arrived at 6 with mud on his boots and anger on his face. We set the second post. On the third morning, he did not come. I found him near 8, cleaning tack in the barn as if he had been there all along. He would not meet my eye. He started explaining about his alarm and a neighbor who needed help late the night before. I said, "Silas, I did not ask why." He looked relieved for half a second. Then he understood. So I ruined it. You missed a morning. Same thing. No. Ruining it is what you do next. The following morning, he was waiting at the first post before I arrived. We did not begin where we had left off. We walked back to the first post, put a hand on it, then went to the third. I wanted him to feel that the work he had already done had not vanished because he failed once. That is where most people lose themselves. They miss one day and turn it into a verdict. One late morning becomes proof they are unreliable. One bad meal becomes a ruined week. One angry word becomes, "This is simply who I am." Then shame does the quitting for them. A missed promise is information. What you do after it is character. Silas and I set one post each morning. Some days he talked, most days he did not. I learned his father had promised a great many things and kept almost none of them. Fishing trips, rent money, a ride home after football practice. Silas had spent half his boyhood on a curb with his equipment bag between his shoes, watching every truck that turned the corner. Now the boy was grown, and he was making promises the same way his father had, big enough to sound loving, too large to survive an ordinary Tuesday. I did not explain that to him. A man does not always need somebody naming what is wrong inside him. Sometimes he needs a post hole, a shovel, and another morning. On the 17th day, rain came sideways across the hill. I assumed we would let it pass. At 5 minutes before 6, I saw headlights at the gate. Silas climbed out wearing a yellow raincoat so large he looked like a child who had borrowed it from the fire department. One post. We could barely keep the hole from filling with water. The new post leaned twice. My hat blew into the pasture, and the dog watched from the dry barn with the expression of an animal reconsidering his association with us. We finished soaked through and laughing. It was foolish work. I remember it better than many sensible days. Something changed after that, but not in the grand way people like to tell these stories. Silas did not become a different man by supper. His truck stayed dented. The bills remained above the visor. He still came late once. He still began sentences with excuses and sometimes had to stop and begin again. But he quit announcing new lives. He chose one promise at a time. For a while it was defense. Then it was opening each bill on the evening it arrived. Later it was calling his mother every Sunday at 7. Small things, almost embarrassingly small. But each one left something behind that he could point to. Self-respect is not something you think your way into. It is evidence. I know because in my early 50s, I reached a place where I did not much trust my own word either. I had made a string of poor decisions and become a man I would not have wanted my grandchildren learning from. I kept waiting to feel strong enough to rebuild everything at once. That feeling never came. So I made one promise. Before coffee, I would walk to the red gate at the top pasture and back. rain, cold, aching knees, bad temper, none of it got a vote. The walk did not solve my troubles. It did not repair what I had damaged or make me a better husband by itself. It gave me one true thing each morning. I said I would go to the gate, and then my boots came home wet. After a while, I added another promise. Tell the truth the first time, especially when the truth made me look small. That one cost more than the walk. Some days I still paid late. The man I became was not built in one hard burst at the forge. He was heated, struck, cooled, and brought back again. I am still bringing him back. That is why I am not going to hand you a list of 10 habits. You already have lists. Pick one thing so plain you cannot hide from whether you did it. Put your shoes beside the bed. Walk to the mailbox. Wash the supper plate before you sit down. Read one page. Make one call every Sunday. 10 minutes. One fence post. Choose something under your control. Get a better job is not a daily promise because another person holds part of that decision. Send one application before supper is yours. Fix my marriage is too large to carry into Tuesday morning. Listen for 10 minutes without defending myself is plain enough to attempt. Do not promise an outcome when what you truly control is an action. Give the promise a place and a time. Vague promises slide around the day until bedtime, then disappear. Silas did not promise to work on the fence more often. He stood at the north pasture at 6. My red gate was before coffee. A promise tied to nowhere gets done nowhere. Make it small enough that your excuses look foolish. Then keep it long enough that you begin to recognize yourself as the person who shows up. And when you miss, do not turn the missed day into a name for yourself. Do not say, I am weak, or I never finish anything. Say the true thing. I missed Tuesday. Then return on Wednesday. Years after Silas left the ranch, I saw him outside a tire shop 2 counties over. He owned the place with another fella. There were 3 bays, 1 broken vending machine, and a hand-painted sign leaning a little to the left. I asked him if he still made plans. He smiled and said, "Not many." Then he pointed toward the shop door. The posted hours said they opened at 7. I turn that key at 6:50 every morning, he said. Been doing it 9 years. I wish I could tell you everything in his life turned out well. I do not know that it did. We spoke for 5 minutes beside a stack of worn tires, and then a customer pulled in. Real lives do not wait around to give an old man a proper ending. But when Silas walked to that door, he did not hurry. He reached into his pocket, found the key, and opened the shop exactly when he said he would. If you know somebody buried under big plans and disappointed in themselves, leave a like so this talk might find them. In the comments, tell me the one promise you are choosing. Keep it small and concrete. Subscribe if you want to sit on this porch again. I will be here, and the dog may even open both eyes next time. Do not promise yourself a new life tonight. Promise yourself one honest thing tomorrow morning. Then get up and leave yourself some evidence. One post, one page, one walk to the gate. Keep your word once tomorrow, then come back and do it again. Take care of yourself, young fella. I will leave the porch light on.